What's up, you guys? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on The Daily Grind, we're going to be revisiting Nyx, talking about Warframe passives, and also one change that we would make to frames for their quality of life. But we'll jump into that in a little bit, and let's go ahead and talk about the build first. Now, this isn't something that we normally do, really, because, you know, a lot of the frames are pretty much common sense. But one of the things that I love about Nyx is it's not hard to build her and have her be good. Now, this is pretty much the generic build that I use from her, and I can actually swap out Assimilate with Chaos Sphere, and it really won't hurt the build whatsoever. You can actually, if you didn't even feel like using an augment, which I'll be honest with you, before the video, I wasn't using an augment because I didn't really feel like I needed it. I'm not the hugest fan of Assimilate. It exists, but I find that her survivability is just fine without it. Now, what I do like doing is putting Stretch in Assimilate's place, and then putting Speed Drift, which is the cast speed, into her auxiliary. But I figure for the sake of this video, let's toss on Assimilate and kind of show off how like ridiculously powered she can be. Actually, let's go ahead, you know, while we're here too, toss on the Basslock. And yes, I am using a skin for it, but let me just make sure I do have... This is, by the way, this isn't like... I was experimenting with this build. Don't pay attention to that build at all. That's just things I was experimenting with. But yeah, that's what I love about Nyx. Super easy. Super easy to kind of like play around with her, her build, and it's not difficult at all. One of the things that I did want to mention here is, as you guys are looking at the visuals, I'm actually not super happy with her kind of like look right now. I've been playing around with it legitimately all morning, and I'm still not happy. I actually ended up buying the Psycho skin, for those of you guys who were kind of keeping track of my Warframe 10-gen expenditures. But yeah, I'm just really trying to nail something for a video that I wanted to end up doing later. Ooh, Fossa. I love this one. It's one of my favorites. So one of the things that kind of like rung true for me for Nyx is she is kind of like one of the classic frames that I absolutely love. She goes all the way back, and I remember like in Damage 1.0 days, we would have like a Nyx and a Vauban. We would be rocking our Acarids and our Flux Rifles, and it's just so... It just kind of like harkens back to that time. But one of the interesting things that we didn't have back then that we have now, so all y'all Nyx players now, all you Nyx mains that just jumped onto the Nyx game, you may not remember way back in the day when Nyx's Chaos was actually uncastable if there was at least one enemy still affected by Chaos. So, like, as you guys know right now, like, oh, that's Psychic Bolts. As you guys can see right now, I can cast Chaos, right? Well, before, if there were any enemies currently affected by Chaos, I would not be able to recast it again for the length of the duration of that. So that's kind of that was one of the big massive drawbacks with Chaos, is you had to make sure that all enemies were killed before you could actually move on. There's only two. Oh shit, sorry. I wanted to make sure there was no hard feelings. But no, legitimately, now you can just kind of recast it willy-nilly and not have any penalties to go along with it. It's kind of like, alright, that's awesome. And I'll be honest with you, that made her like so much more usable. And it was just one little tiny change. And it's kind of like one of those classic Warframe player issues. It's like, oh, remember back in the day when that wasn't a thing that we could do? Yeah, well, well, we can do it now, so we're okay. But back then, back in the days, it was one of those things that was just absolutely painful, because we just sat there and you just kind of waited. You just had to like wait for when she was able to recast Chaos again, and that was just the biggest pain. Now, I know that there are a lot of frames that everybody wants to rework and wants to do a whole ton of a lot with. But I did want to ask you guys, one of the discussion topics was, what is one change that you guys would make to a frame that you think would completely change their play? Because right now, and one of the ones off the top of our head is actually a pretty fresh new thing that's coming up, is the Limbo rework. So we've got the Limbo rework coming up. However, one of the changes that is not on the docket is for him to actually be able to pick things up in the Rift. And I know that that's been a big point of contention. And I think that that's one of those things. And I'm not... Here's the thing you gotta hear me say. I gotta say, I don't know. I cannot genuinely pinpoint the issues as to what it is, what or why they do not want, you know, us to be able to pick things up in the Rift, okay? I don't know. I have not had anything confirmed. Nobody's spoken to me about it. But legitimately, they've repeatedly stated that, you know, it's not a thing. And even with the rework, you know, that's coming out, it doesn't seem to be something that's on the docket. And it's one of the most asked for things. I'm not saying it's right, because, you know, I personally don't know myself. I haven't gotten to test it out, whether there's a reason why it would be too OP. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is... Oh, I thought this was a statue. I thought the little Kuva gesture was a statue. I was, like, confused. I was like, what is that? What's wrong with this? But yeah, so Nyx being able to recast Chaos, is one of those kind of quality of life changes. Like, a single, small quality of life change that really completely changed... I want to get under the legs. That completely changed the way the character played. So I want to know from you guys, kind of like Limbo and people being able to pick up things in Cataclysm, what is like one change, one quality of life change? I'm not asking for a whole, I don't care about a whole like crazy multiple change, you know, let's rework a whole frame kind of thing. I mean, like, what's one eensy-weensy little change that you would make that you think would completely change the usability of a frame? Because sometimes it is very small little things like, you know, being able to recast Chaos mid-mission, or mid, you know, refresh it basically, that really can totally change the gameplay of an entire frame. So I want to know what you guys think about that. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to chat about was, I had mentioned in the past that Nyx isn't really... What an asshole! You're such an asshole! Boo! I hate you! No, but one of the things that was... One of the Warframes that I did not play very often was Nyx. Nyx is not my frame. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that her and Loki have some interesting overlaps. One of them being is that one of her abilities confuses enemies in an area of effect and makes them fight each other. As we know, Loki has the ability to do Irradiating Disarm, which disarms and irradiates enemies, thus confusing them, right? So it's some overlap, and the interesting overlap is that Nyx's passive actually has a chance for enemies to drop their weapons when affected by one of her abilities, right? Let's see if we can do it now. Can we do it? Can we do it? Anybody want drop your anybody want to drop your weapon? You want to drop your weapon? Somebody drop your weapon! I need to show them on camera. You drop your weapon. Oh, I guess, well, you just died then. Sorry. Maybe in the next mission, somebody will drop their weapon. But yeah, so she's got this area of effect, Confuse, that has the chance for enemies to drop weapons, while Loki has an area of effect, Disarm, which makes enemies confused and fight each other. For a shorter period of time, mind you. So a lot of the times, kind of like their usefulness overlaps a little bit, and now Nyx can go invincible, while Loki can go invisible. So a part of it is almost kind of like, which one do I prefer better? And of course, it's gonna be, you know, you guys know how the story plays out. It's Loki. Loki wins the day for me. So that's maybe one of the reasons why I'm not super crazy hot over Nyx. Plus, like I said a little bit earlier too, I had a lot of trouble fashion framing her. This I'm not even happy with, and I know you guys are probably going to be trying to leave me kind of like looks and stuff, but I played around with a whole lot today. Like, legitimately, from the time that I woke up, it was like maybe 4 episodes of Game of Thrones. I was just sitting there like shuffling through colors, and I was just not happy at all with anything that I was getting, even with the psycho skin. And I was trying hard. I got very, very close to what I wanted many a times, but it was never exactly like what I wanted. So I'm wondering if maybe it's just the model in general that I'm not super fond of that kind of affects it. So overall, it's just like something for me that is not that great. However, what I did want to say is her passive is actually pretty fucking interesting. Do it! Come on, drop your weapons. Just kick. God damn it. God, listen. Somebody drop your weapons. Drop your weapons. Oh, yeah, it worked. Him. He dropped his weapon. You see that? You see that? Okay. Confirmation. It's a thing she does. So, that is one thing to make note of is, come on, drop. I won't want to drop your weapons. The thing about her is I do overall, though, think that she's a fantastic frame. And I'm not, and to repeat, I am not saying in any way, shape, or form that I think Loki is better or worse than her. They just have a lot of overlap that I'm not, you know, necessarily super fond of. Well, not fond of, it's just that I prefer her version better. Let's say that. Let's say that real quick. So, I don't know, let me know what how you guys feel about the similarities, because I know that we chatted about this before, is like frames having a lot of the similar abilities, but the thing that I actually was supposed to be talking about realistically were the passives. So one of the things that was actually a big point of contention was that certain passives definitely felt like they helped the overall performance of a Warframe. So if you think about it, if you think something along the lines of Ashe's ability to increase the damage of bleed procs, and, you know, Saren's abilities to increase the duration of status, like, things like that are definite benefits to a frame's performance. Even, you could even say that Nyx's ability to make enemies drop their weapons is also a pretty good passive. However, there are other frames out there, and one of, you know, the big frames that everybody wants to chat about, which I will kind of disagree with it, to be honest with you, is Oberon and his ability to charm animals. And I know a lot of people had laughs. A lot of people made the guffaw laughs because they're salty over how cool Loki is. Was when his passive turned out to be a ridiculously long duration wall cling and whatnot. And a part of me is like, well, do you guys think that passives should be just there to add flavor to a Warframe? Because I definitely feel like Ashe's, you know, blade passive is very flavorful. I think it's very, you know, I think there's a lot of flavor to it because of the fact that he is very assassin-y. Not ninja-y, but assassin-y. And I think that Nyx's kind of goes with her. I'll be honest, I feel like it was almost kind of like a way to make Nyx players not feel so bad that Loki had a Radiant Disarm, but, you know, well, I didn't officially say that. I just, you know, might be in my head thinking it just a little bit. But yeah, so let me know, do you feel like passives should all be like Ashe's, which it helps the actual, like, damage output or, like, you know, condition output or, you know, whatever output of a frame, you know, kind of goes along more with their mechanics? Or do you think the flavorful ones are the way that kind of like all Warframes should go? Because there, you know, there's always people who are gonna want to min-max the game, and there's always gonna be people who say, well, this doesn't help with Loki's damage output, or this doesn't help with like Loki's survivability, or this doesn't feel thematic enough. You know what I mean? There's always people on either end of the spectrum. Either something is too thematic or something is too min-maxy, so they either want to, like, you know, they're either like, oh, well, Ashe shouldn't have that powerful passive if Oberon can have that powerful passive, or if Loki can't have that powerful passive, or if, you know, whatever frame can't have that powerful passive. So let me know what you guys think about, number one, what you would, one change, not a rework, but one change that you would put into a Warframe, like a quality of life change for certain Warframes. That you think would change their gameplay completely, like the Limbo picking up things in the Rift one, or Nyx's ability to recast Chaos while Chaos is currently active on targets. And also, let me know on what side of the fence you feel about Warframe passives. Do you feel like they should be more min-maxy, or do you feel like they should ditch the min-maxiness all the way and just go for something more flavorful? Because, and let's be real though, sometimes flavorful ends up being a little min-maxy, so there's like a thin line to draw. So let me know how you guys feel about that in the comments below, and that pretty much does it for today's daily grind. So, as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch yo body. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!